Hello all, my name is Krishna and welcome to my YouTube channel. So guys, if you are following my complete deep learning playlist, one of the optimizer that was missed was called as Adam optimizer. And many people were asking about that particular video. So finally I have made that video, and there were also some problems, some mistakes, some minor mistakes in my previous optimizer video. And that, to fix that, what I have done is that I have created one video where I've included all the optimizers. I've started from gradient descent, then we have gone into stochastic gradient descent, mini batch stochastic gradient descent, then we have AdaGrad, then we have AdaDelta and RMS prop. After that we have Adam optimizer. So this video that we have created is more than 1.5 hours. Okay guys, now suppose if you know the further things, if you know gradient descent, if you know stochastic gradient descent, if you know other things, I will be giving the timestamp in the specific video. You can actually go and watch that. But what I would suggest, just revise all the concepts starting till the end, because there were some minor mistakes in my previous optimizer video. So I tried to fix that. I would suggest you please go through the whole video. This 1.5 hours of video will be very beneficial for all of you, to understand the whole working of optimizers. I've created in the form of a story why Adam optimizer is good, why Ada delta is good, what are the problems with respect to stochastic gradient descent, what in order to fix that, how do we use stochastic gradient descent with momentum, and many such optimizers are basically being explained. But again, if you know all these things, you can directly see the Adam optimizer. Again, the timestamp will be given in the description of this particular video. So please go enjoy and please try to see the whole video. So yes, let's go ahead. First thing, I hope everybody is clear with gradient descent. Okay, gradient descent. Okay. So what is gradient descent? We said that this is a kind of optimizers. Now, what is optimizers? Okay, so let's begin. So I told you that, okay, suppose this is my input layer. Okay, this is my input layer. So here we provide our input. Then suppose I create my two hidden neuron, and finally one output neuron. Okay, so I told you that here we connect to this, we connect to this, we connect to this. Sorry, we connect to this, and then here again we connect like this, right? This is also getting connected to this, and finally we are getting connected to the output layer, right? So this is my output layer, this is my hidden layer 1, this is my input layer. I'm just taking an example of a neural network. So what happens in the front propagation, we get our y hat over here, and then based on that we create our loss function. My loss function is basically my error function, you can say, or I can also say this as my cost function. We calculate the error over here. One example I gave you is something like this: 1 by 2 y minus y hat whole square, right? Now when we compute this loss function, our main aim is to reduce the loss function. How do we do it? We do it with the help of optimizers, right? Now, what does the optimizer actually do? They update the weight in the back propagation. So we have front propagation, we have back propagation, right? So in the back propagation, they update all these weights. So whatever weights are here, like W1, W2, W3, suppose over here, it is like W21, W22, right? Here we have W11, W12, right? Then W21, sorry, this will be W11, W12. Okay, some different weights are here. So every weights gets updated in the back propagation. We have also understood what is the back updation formula. So we have like W new is equal to W old minus learning rate of derivative of loss with respect to W old. So this is the formula that we had already seen. And this particular formula is of the gradient descent, right? This particular formula is of the gradient descent. So gradient descent, right?
Now, when we are computing this particular formula, this is basically our optimizers. And based on this, we are updating every weights. Now, before going ahead with respect to this, I want to discuss about two topics. One is epoch, and the second one is iteration. And based on this, I'll change the loss function formula a little bit. Okay. But they are different types of loss function. This kind of loss function is for regression problem statement. We have entropy, which is called classification problem statement. We have different loss function. But in today's session, we are not just discussing about loss function. We are discussing more on optimizers. What are the various kind of optimizers? Now, before that, let me explain epoch. Now, what is this epoch and iteration? Okay. Suppose I have in my data set 10K records. Okay, 10K records. Please, guys, everybody focus on this. Okay, it is very important to focus on this particular session. Okay, let me just take a confirmation once whether you are able to hear me, guys. Can you just message in the chat box once? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So I'm disabling the chat. I think everybody is able to hear me. My voice is pretty much clear. If I get disconnected, don't worry. I'll be back within 30 seconds, not more than that. Okay. So I'm disabling the chat now. Okay. Now, suppose I have a data set of 10K records, and I say that I have to train my model for 20 epochs, suppose. For 20 epochs. Okay. I want to train my data set for 20 epochs. That basically means in every epoch, I'll take the 10K records. In every epoch, I'll be taking the 10K records. I do the back propagation and updation with respect to the total 10K records. Now, if I take 10K records, then my loss function will be something like this. Everybody focus over here. My loss function will be something like this. 1 by 2 summation of I is equal to 1 to n. Okay, this n is nothing but 10K records. Okay, and then I will write y minus y hat whole square. Okay, so this is the formula that becomes, because we need to do the summation of all the errors, right? Of all the errors with respect to y. So here I'll write yi hat. Okay, so this, when I'm taking all the 10K records, that basically means in every front propagation, I'm taking the 10K records, I'm doing the front propagation, and I'm finally calculated my yi. Yi basically means for the first record, it will be y1, then y2, y3, y4, y5, like that till y10,000. Okay. So if I have features like this, see, if I have features f1, f2, and this is my y. Okay. So if I write 1, 2, 5, this is my first record, right? This will basically become my y1, right? In my next record, suppose it is 2, 4, 5. This output feature will be my y2. This will be my inputs like x1, x2, like this inputs, right? x1, x2, x3, right? So similarly, this record will be transferred over here. The loss function will be getting calculated. But now, if I'm considering 10K records, that basically means in the front propagation for every epochs, I'm passing 10K records. Okay. Now this is with respect to epochs, and this is how gradient descent actually work. Okay. Gradient descent, it takes a complete data set. How many data set it may be having, right? It will be completely taking it. It will be doing front propagation. It will be doing back propagation. Okay. So suppose in one epoch, it does the front propagation, it does the back propagation, the weights get updated. In the second epoch, again, all the 10K records will be taken. All this particular multiplication will be happening, and finally you'll be getting the output. Okay, like this. Now, this is with respect to gradient descent. Okay, in gradient descent, again, I'm telling you, the whole data set is basically taken. The complete data set is actually taken. Okay, complete data set. Now, what is this iteration? Now, I don't want to take, okay, see, understand over here. Now, right now, my data size is 10K. Okay, my 10K records is my data size. What if my data size becomes 1 million records or more than 1 million records? What my whole data set records becomes more than 1 million. At that time, what will happen? Just understand. When I do the front propagation, I have to take all the 1 million records according to gradient descent and calculate my loss function. And then in the backward propagation, I have to update all the weights, right? Now there is a problem in this. If I take such a huge amount of record, I will be requiring huge RAM. And you'll be seeing that how many weights will get updated. Here I've just developed a 2-layer neural network, but if I have a deep neural network, right, at that time the weight updation will take time. So when the weight updation will take time, the convergence will happen slowly, right? The convergence will happen slowly. What do I mean by convergence? So this is my weight, this is my loss, right? And I have this diagram like this. Okay, so this weight updation, this is my weight, this is my loss. Okay, this weight updation will take time. Definitely it will take time because I have so many records, right? 1 million records, and at one time I'm taking so many records and doing back propagation for every epochs, right? First of all, to load 1 million records, okay, I'm just taking an example of 1 million record. Probably in a project you have 10 million records or 20 million records, right? Just to load this particular model in the RAM, you'll be requiring huge RAM size, right? So this is basically resource. You'll be requiring more resource, and it is computationally very expensive, right? I can say computationally expensive, right? It is expensive, right? This is computationally expensive. So what do we do? What do we do? So in order to prevent this, we there was an introduction of something called as stochastic gradient descent. Stochastic gradient descent. Stochastic gradient descent, which we also call it as SGD. In stochastic gradient descent, what did the scientists do? Instead of taking all the record, they started taking one record, first of all. Okay, just one record. Every record will do the front propagation and will do the back propagation. And in that particular case, my formula will be like this only. My formula will be like this only. Okay, my formula will be like this only. Now, suppose imagine I have 10 million records, and every time for every record I'm updating the weights. That will also take more amount of time, because just imagine for every record, right? I'm actually taking, okay, before that, if I have again, let's take, if I have 1 million record. Now if I'm trying to update this loss and weight in every so I told you about epochs, right? In one epoch, you may, how many number of records are there, we have actually given in the gradient descent. But in stochastic gradient descent, now for every epoch, how many iterations I have to do? Now see this, what is this iteration? How many iterations I have to do? That is the main thing. Suppose if I have 10K records, right? And I told you in stochastic gradient descent, by default, we'll be just taking one record, right? So if I have 10K records, for every epoch, for one epoch, I have to do 10K iterations. I have to do 10K iterations of forward and backward propagation. Again, understand why 10K? Because every time I'm taking one record, I'm doing the front propagation and I'm doing the back propagation. Okay. So for every epoch, I'm doing 10K iterations, right? And again, if I just do 10K iterations for every epoch, just imagine if I do 20 epochs, then what will be the total number of iterations? It will be nothing but 20 into 10K, right? It will be somewhere around 2 lakhs iteration. And that time also, the convergence will again happen slowly, right? The convergence will obviously happen slowly, right? So because of this, in stochastic gradient descent, when we are just considering stochastic gradient descent, and for every forward and backward propagation, I'm taking one records. I'm not taking the whole records. I'm just taking one records, and I'm doing the back propagation at that particular time. So this will also be very slow. The convergence will happen very slow. It will be definitely, it will be less resource computational expensive, and it will also require less RAM. But just imagine it will be very slow to reach this specific point. Okay, so what is the next thing, right? Now you understood at least the difference between gradient descent and stochastic gradient descent. In gradient descent, we take the whole records and we do the front propagation and back propagation. In case of stochastic gradient descent, we just take single record, we do the back propagation. And in that particular case, for every epoch, there will be an introduction of iteration. There will be an introduction of iteration that we have learned. Now, in order to prevent this, what we can do? So scientists came up with the second thing that is called as mini batch. Let me just show you over here. Scientists came up with something called as mini batch SGD, stochastic gradient descent. Now, what researchers said that, okay, fine, it is obviously taking so much of time in SGD. Let's make some more changes. Now, what I'll say is that even though I have a 10K records, for every epoch, again, understand guys, for every epoch, I will take, or the researcher took some batch size. Some batch size. Suppose in this case, my batch size is 1000. Okay. So this is what we have done. That basically means we will take for every epoch, 1000 records, and we do the back propagation. Now, 1000, why? I've just given as an example, but we are specifying some batch size. In 1 million record also, I can take the batch size as 10K. Okay. That time, how many number of epochs will then, sorry. So suppose here I say that, okay, I want to run it for 20 epochs. Now, I told you that for every epoch, suppose I am in the epoch 1. Okay. How many iterations will be here? First of all, we need to understand how many iterations, how many forward and backward propagation will happen in just one epoch. We'll try to understand that. So over here, I will divide 10K divided by 1000 because 1000 is my batch size. 1000 is my batch size, right? So if I divide 10,000 divided by 1000, if I divide it, then this is going to be 10 iterations. So in every epoch, I will be doing 10 iterations. Okay. Here I've fixed the batch size as 1000. Suppose tomorrow you have a 1 million record. If you fix your batch size as 1000, you just have to divide 1 million divided by 1000. That many number of iteration will happen. That basically means that in epoch 1, how many number of times I'll do forward and backward propagation? I'll be doing 10 different types of forward and backward propagation. Then again in the epoch 2, I'll be doing 10 forward and backward propagation. Okay. Now remember one thing now in this, what will happen? This obviously will be requiring less resources, right? Because at one time, okay, even though the records were 10,000 or 1 million, for every epoch inside that we are performing iterations. And finally, you will be able to see that we'll be able to reach the global minimum. Now, one point, very important point that I want to mention over here. Okay. Now see this. You will be able to see that with respect to gradient descent, our convergence will happen something like this. Okay. In case of mini batch SGD, our convergence will happen something like this. Our convergence will happen something like this. Okay. Now you may be considering why this kind of convergence is happening, because in gradient descent, I've just drawn a small line, straight line, right? We are going straightly. But in the case of mini batch SGD, we are having some zigzag line, and this line is basically called as noise. Noise. Why this noise is coming? Just let's understand. Okay. Here you are main reason why this noise is coming. Why this noise is actually coming? Because in gradient descent, we are getting the straight line and we are converging at this specific point. Okay. We are converging at this specific point. Okay. But in the case of mini batch SGD, we are getting this zigzag line. The reason why we are getting the zigzag line, because over here it is simple, right? We are just taking a batch of data. We are taking a batch of data. We are just taking a batch of data. We don't know the whole data. So if you don't know the whole data, obviously the weight updation will take little bit more time when compared to the gradient descent, right? When compared to the gradient descent. So this kind of noise will definitely be there, right? I will just repeat it, okay, till here. I'll again repeat it 1 second. Now see everybody, I will again repeat it. Please focus over here, okay? Now, I have already explained you about, first of all, gradient descent, okay? In gradient descent, what do we do is that we basically do forward and backward propagation, okay? In gradient descent is a kind of optimizer. And in that, you will be able to see that we take the whole data set. We take the whole data set, and my loss function looks something like this. My loss functions look something like this, okay? My loss function looks something like this. The reason why I'm taking this loss function, like summation of I is equal to 1 to n, right? Over here, we take the whole data set and we do the front and backward propagation. So basically means that in epoch 1, right, I will be taking the 10K record. Suppose my total data set is there. I'll be doing the front propagation, I'll compute the loss, and I'll do the back propagation. So I told you that in the case of gradient descent, what was the problem? Suppose I had 1 million records. I would definitely require whole amount of RAM because I need to load that whole 10K or 1 million data set. Then it is also resource computationally expensive because when I'm doing the back propagation, and there will be many weights with respect to many records, and those many number of weights will get updated, right? And because of that, this will definitely take a whole amount of time, right, with respect to gradient descent. So researcher, and you can see that how the gradient descent was there, the convergence was happening like this red color line. Okay, it was very smooth and it was happening like this. But in the real world scenario, it is impossible to use gradient descent because in our data sets will be having more than 1 million data set. So researcher thought of, can we bring stochastic gradient descent? Now in stochastic gradient descent, the main aim was that for every epoch, inside every epoch, I will first of all pick up one record, do the front propagation and do the back propagation, right? Do the front propagation, compute the loss, then update the weights for each and every records, right? For each and every records. Now, suppose in my total number of records are 10K, that basically means using SGD for epoch 1, I have to iterate through 10K different times. I have to do 10K iterations because inside every epoch, I'm picking up one record, I'm doing the front propagation, I'm doing the backward propagation, right? And again, because of this, the convergence will again be very slow, right? Because just imagine, I have 1 million records, I'm just picking one record, doing the front propagation, doing the back propagation and updating the weights, right? So that is also a disadvantage. Okay, and you can see over there it will be very slow. The convergence will be very slow. So the researcher finally came up with something called as mini batch SGD. In mini batch SGD, people, what researchers thought that, can we fix a batch size? Okay, suppose if I have 10K records, now in my case I will fix a batch size 1000, suppose. So what will happen if I do 10K divided by 1000, 10K divided by 1000, right? This will be somewhere around 10. So in every epoch, so like epoch, suppose I'm in epoch 1, in iteration 1, I will take 1000 records. Okay, I'll do the front propagation, I'll do the back propagation. Then in iteration 2, I'll take the next 1000 records. So this will be from 1000 to 2000. So my next 1000 records will be here. I'll do the front propagation and back propagation, and I'll update the weights. In iteration 3, I'll again take the next 1000 records, that is my 3000 records, till the from 2000 to 3000 records. I'll do the front propagation and back propagation. Like this, I'll be continuing, and the total number of iterations will be 10. Okay, and by that, I will be covering my first epoch and last epoch. And remember, every time my loss function now with respect to mini batch SGD will get converted into 1 by 2 summation of I is equal to 1 to t yi minus y hat whole square, where t is actually my batch size, okay, and this batch size may be different based on your number of data. So finally, what I have written is that I have written this main key points. In gradient descent, we take the whole data set for doing the front propagation and back propagation. In SGD, we just take one data at a time and we do the front propagation and back propagation. In mini batch, we take some batch size. And we do the front propagation and back propagation. And remember, when we are taking mini batch SGD, our convergence will not be smooth like gradient descent. I told you why. Because we are taking the batch. We don't know the whole data. The neural network does not know the whole data. So the route may be a little bit different, right? It may not be smooth as this. If I draw a counter plot, there is also something called as counter plot. See this. This is called as counter plot. So you just see this. I'm actually seeing this whole gradient descent from top view. Suppose if I'm seeing from the top view, right? Suppose this is how it looks like from the top view. Okay. This is how it looks from the top view. This is called as counter plot. Okay. Suppose I'm seeing this curve from the top view. Okay. Now remember, in gradient descent, my convergence will be very smoother like this. Suppose this is my convergence point. It will be very smoother. But in case of stochastic gradient descent, my convergence will be like this. Like this, right? It will be something like this. Why it will be like this? Because I don't have the whole data. We are having just the batch size, and now weights are basically getting updated based on the batch size. So I have written over here clearly that my derivative of loss with respect to weights for gradient descent is approximately equal to derivative of loss with respect to weights in the case of SGD. Okay, it is not exactly equal. It will always be approximately equal. But again, remember, both the final goal will be reaching the global minima. But why we are doing this? Why we are doing this? Because to solve the problem of gradient descent, in gradient descent, now we are solving that will be requiring less resources for doing the computation, and this will be less computational expensive, right? Less computational expensive. Okay. Now, is it clear till here, guys? I have again, not just you can just type out the message, but I hope it is clear. Epoch is a round of front propagation and back propagation. Exactly. Epoch is a round of front propagation and back propagation. But imagine if there are multiple iteration inside epoch, that many number of front propagation and back propagation will happen. Okay. There should be two loops, one for batch size and one for number of iteration to get the total number of observation. Yes, if we are taking stochastic mini batch stochastic gradient descent or stochastic gradient descent. In the case of gradient descent, every time it will be only one iteration inside one epoch. Okay. What is epoch? Epoch is just like iteration. How many number of times we are training the model? Okay. How many number of times we'll be training the model? Why noise? Okay, just see over here, guys. The noise basically will be there because of the batch size. I see if I have 10,000 data points, then I will be able to train the model very quickly and very smoothly. But if I just have batch of data, like 100 data in the first epoch, that time I may take a different path. And finally I'll reach that specific path itself. Always remember, in stochastic gradient descent, we are getting the data on batches. We are not getting the whole data like gradient descent. So because of that, this noise will be definitely there. Okay. But again, the final goal will be that it will be reaching over here. One more point I forgot to mention, the convergence when compared to gradient descent will be a little bit slow for this, but it is solving the main problem that is with respect to resources. Okay, so that is there. Do we need to eliminate the noise? Yes, I'll show you how to eliminate the noise and all. Okay, we'll be having much noise followed by mini batch. Yes, stochastic gradient descent, yes, SGD will be having more noise, more noise, because every time we are just taking one record. So sometime for stochastic gradient descent, the curve may be something like this. See, for stochastic gradient descent, it may be something like this. It may be 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 like this. Something. And finally, we are reaching like this or at this particular point. Okay. But in the case of this is with respect to gradient descent, this is with respect to SGD mini batch. This is with respect to SGD. Okay. Okay, now I'm disabling the chat, but I hope you have understood most of the things. I will talk about local minima, don't worry. Okay. Okay, again, I'm telling you guys, don't get confused with respect to epochs and iteration. Again, you're getting confused with epochs to iteration. Just imagine like this. Okay, I'll just write it over here. Suppose I have 10K records. Okay. In epoch 1, if I use gradient descent, for every front propagation and back propagation, how many number of records I'm taking? Suppose in gradient descent, we take the whole records. So for every epoch, there will be only one iteration in gradient descent. Okay. There will be only iteration only one iteration, because we are taking the whole data set, right? In case of SGD, in every epoch, there will be how many number of iteration? This iteration will be equal to the number of records, because for every iteration inside every epoch, I'm taking one record at a time and I'm doing the forward propagation and backward propagation. In mini batch SGD, inside every epoch, for doing the front propagation and back propagation, how many iteration will be there? The iteration will be equal to the total data set divided by batch size, right? So here I'm specifying some batch size. Suppose if I specify my batch size is 1000, so my total number of iteration will be 10,000 divided by 1000. So this will be for every epoch, I'll be having 10 iterations, right? You can select the number of epochs, like how many number of epochs will be there. Like for if for epoch 1, again 10 iteration happening, epoch 2, 10 iteration is happening. That depends on why multiple epochs, because for reaching the global minima, it will take time. Like it will just not be happening in just one epoch. It will take time. But understand the concepts, the basic difference between iteration and epochs. Okay. Fine. Now, I hope everybody's understood what is stochastic, what is mini batch, what is gradient descent. Now, let's solve one problem. Let's write it down over here. I will write it down somewhere here. Okay. Okay. So I told you that this is my weights. Okay. This is my loss. Okay. Now, okay, this is my gradient descent. I told you that. Suppose this is my global minima. Okay, the local minima. I'll discuss about local minima. Don't worry about it right now. Okay. Okay. So initially, suppose my weights is initialized over here. I told you that in case of gradient descent, we will be having a smoother way of reaching, right, or reaching the global minima. In case of stochastic gradient descent, I will be having this zigzag movement. I'll be having this zigzag movement like this. But again, the final goal will be to reach the global minima. Now, this red color, again, I'm going to write it. This red color over here is basically gradient descent path. This green color is actually your mini batch SGD part. Okay. Now let's discuss about one very important thing. I told you that with respect to SGD, we have some amount of noise, right? We have some amount of noise, and we need to remove this noise. Otherwise, just imagine if there are so much noise, that basically means our convergence is not happening. It is the convergence is basically taking a lot of paths. So just imagine this is like this, guys. See, this is like this. I'll show you what it is, what exactly I'm trying to specify by this. Suppose you have a mountain. Okay, suppose you have a mountain. By the mountain, we say that the gradient descent. Suppose this is my mountain. Okay, this is my mountain. Suppose we are doing trekking. So here is person A, there is person B. Okay, person A, just imagine person A is my gradient descent. Person B is my mini batch SGD. Now person A has started from this point. Person B has started from this point. Person A, what he does is that he climbs the mountain like this and he reaches the top. Okay. Now this is the shortest path, right? This is the shortest path. Whereas in the case of person B, the person B liked doing a lot of trekking. So instead of going straight, he went something like this. Right? He went like this. Right? He went like this. And finally he reached it. Which will take more time? Obviously, person A will take more time. Person A will take less time. And person B will take more time. So this is like this only, SGD. But we understood what was the problem with respect to gradient descent. But now remove, just understand, can we do something? Can we give some GPS to B saying that instead of going like this, the person B should smoothen this curve like this, and it should go like this. Can the person B do something like this, and it should be able to go in this particular way, right? Can this particular person B go like this? And if he takes this smoothened curve, he will obviously able to reach this particular top very, very quickly. And this is what is happening, right? This is my noise. And when we are smoothing this, we are basically reducing noise. Okay. Now, don't tell me, guys, here you are drawing this kind of curve. Here you are doing a mountain curve. Okay, don't tell me like that. Just understand that we are traveling at one specific point and we want to reach that specific point in a much more better way. So similarly, what we will do is that we will apply some technique wherein this point will become little bit curved and smooth like this. And we'll try to reach over here. And for that, we basically say a topic which is called as SGD with momentum. SGD with momentum. So with the help of this momentum terminology, this momentum basically says that this momentum, what it, we'll discuss about this momentum, what exactly it is. With the help of SGD with momentum, this noisy data that we have, we will try to smoothen this data so that we'll be able to reach on the top, or suppose if the person is coming from top to bottom, okay, it will also be applied in the same way. Okay, so let's understand what is SGD with momentum, or we also say gradient descent with momentum. Okay, now let's go over here. Let me write down some of the equations. Okay, you know that my weight new is equal to weight old minus learning rate derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w old, right? Derivative of w old. Now what I'm going to do is that instead of writing old and new, let me specify this as wt minus 1 minus n derivative of loss with respect to derivative of wt minus 1. Why I'm saying t minus 1? Because t and t minus 1 will specify the previous iteration, t minus 1 will specify the previous iteration, t will specify the current iteration. In that specific way, I've made some changes in this particular thing. Now, what does momentum basically say? Momentum says that we are instead of calculating our derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w old, in order to make this smoothen, we will compute something called as exponential weighted average. Exponential weighted average. We are going to compute this one. That is exponential weighted average. Instead of just computing gradient descent, instead we will try to compute exponential weighted average. Now, what is this exponential weighted average? Let me just give you a very good example. Okay. Suppose I have a series of data. Like I'll say that, okay, at T1, I have A1 data. At T2, I have A2 data. At T3, I have A3 data. At T4, I have A4 data. Okay. And like this, I have Tn, I have An data. This is just like a time series problem. Okay. With respect to the future data, I have some values. At T1, I had A1 data, T2, A2, A3, A4. What do we say with respect to an exponential average? In exponential average, what we do is that we basically initialize. Suppose I'll say that, okay, we'll initialize one v. We obviously say this v as velocity in physics. I'll discuss more about that. There is something, whenever we talk about momentum, it is a physics concept, okay, where we talk about velocity, we talk about acceleration and all. But don't worry much about it, because I'll just try to make it much more specific to this topic itself. Okay, I'll not include physics. Now, suppose I want to initialize v1 is equal to a1. Okay, so suppose I say vt1 is equal to a1. So this basically says that initially my value, some value with respect to t1 is a1 over here. Okay, now if I really want to compute vt2, okay, vt2, if I want to do the exponentially weighted average till these two values like t1 and t2, we can apply one very, very simple formula, that is beta multiplied by vt1 plus 1 minus beta multiplied by a2. Okay, this is what is the formula of exponentially weighted average. Now till t2, what all things we are doing, we are and what is this beta? I'll talk about this beta. This beta is a kind of hyperparameter. This basically specifies that how much importance do you want to give to your previous data, because if I replace this vt1, what it will be? A1 plus 1 minus beta multiplied by A2. Okay. Now, suppose if I say my beta is 0.95. Okay. Now, if I take 0.95, this is nothing but 0.95 A1 plus 1 minus 0.95 is nothing but 0.05 A2. Now, what does this specify? This specifies that for the previous point, based on this beta value, I'm giving more importance to the A1 to do the exponentially average, to do the exponential average. Now, exponential average basically means it is bringing smoothening. It is bringing smoothening concept. And this is also there in something called as ARIMA, guys. There is a machine learning concept which is called as ARIMA. There also we use some kind of smoothening concept. Okay. If you really want to do some forecasting, at that time we basically use this concept. Now, when I write 1 minus beta, I'm actually getting 0.05 multiplied by A2. That basically means for the next point, it is given less importance. Now, if I select my beta as 0.1, right? If I select my beta as 0.1, then what will happen? Over here, my 0.1 will be nothing but 0.1 A1, and here it will be 0.9 A2. Now, in this case, I'm giving more importance to the future term. So this beta is a hyperparameter. It's a hyperparameter. Okay. Now let me just consider one more case. If I want to go till time t3 and I want to do the exponential average, because our weights will also get updated with t1, t2, t3 as the number of iteration increases, right? So suppose if I write with respect to vt3, now vt3, I can write it as beta multiplied by vt2 plus 1 minus beta multiplied by a3, because see, in t3 we have a3, right? So if I'm going to apply the same formula, vt3 is equal to beta multiplied by vt2. Now here I will try to replace vt2 by something like this, beta multiplied by vt1. Okay, I'll replace this whole term over here, right? I'll replace this whole term over here, plus 1 minus beta multiplied by a2, and finally plus 1 minus beta multiplied by a3, right? Like this we do something called as exponential average. And guys, I'm just not talking about this is like simple maths. If you also specify some values like this 1 2 3 4 5 6, and you try to apply this formula, you'll be able to see, and you'll just try to plot in x and y axis. Okay, x and y axis, you'll be able to see that it will be having a smoothened line. Okay, the same concept we need to apply with respect to weights. Okay, the same concept we need to apply with respect to weights. Okay, guys, and you'll be seeing, guys, there will be a lot of maths involved, but again, you have to keep on learning these things. In the first time, whenever I had also learned, just did not learn it for the first time itself. I had to put multiple efforts in this. Now let's see how we will be applying with respect to the weights over here. How we will be applying to this weight updation formula, the exponential weighted average. Okay. So with respect to the exponential weighted average, the weight updation formula will be something like this. So I will write W new is equal to, or let me just remove W new because I'm going to basically write it as WT is equal to WT minus 1 minus learning rate of, instead of writing derivative of loss with respect to derivative of WT minus 1, I will just write it as something like this, VDW. Okay. I'll just write it as VDW. VDW is nothing but it is the exponential weighted average, like whatever formula we have actually found out over here. Okay. Similarly, till now, remember the weight updation formula is like this, right? We also have that bias updation formula also. Okay. Bias updation formula is also like this only. I can write that B new is equal to B old minus learning rate of derivative of loss with respect to B old. So my DB old will also become something like this. Okay. So I will write my weight updation formula with respect to bias. BT is equal to BT minus 1 minus learning rate. And here I will write it as BDW. Okay. So this will basically be my formula for the exponential weighted average when I'm updating the weights over here. Okay. And this is my component of the exponential weighted average. This is my component of the exponential weighted average. Okay. Now you may be considering, how do we compute this? How do we compute this WDW, VDB, VDW? Okay. So let me write a simple algorithm over here, but the formula will look almost something like this. Okay. This VDW will be having this formula. This VDW will be having nothing but beta multiplied by, VDW of T, beta multiplied by VDW T minus 1, okay, plus 1 minus beta multiplied by derivative of loss with respect to derivative of weights. Okay. So like this, our weight updation formula will happen in the case of exponentially weighted average. Exponentially weighted average. So I think this is, yes, it is exponentially weighted average. Similarly, in the case of VDB, how do we update the VDB with respect to weights? It will be beta multiplied by VDB t minus 1 plus 1 minus beta multiplied by derivative of loss with respect to derivative of bias. Okay, so this will be with respect to t minus 1. This will also be with respect to t minus 1. So this will be my updation formula for VDBW. Okay, so whenever I'm updating it, I'm just not updating this with my derivative of loss with respect to derivative of weights, but instead I'm updating with the exponentially weighted average. The exponentially weighted average is computed like this. Okay, it is computed like this. Initially, we'll assign it to a randomly initialized weight, and as we go with respect to epoch, here we will be doing, and here usually the beta symbol is basically taken as 0.95. This is the value that has been taken by researchers for doing the smoothing of the weights. Okay, smoothing of the weights. Now I will give you a chance to ping and say me whether it is fine. Are you understanding things or not, guys? No. Suprashant says knows. What about others? What is BT? BT is a bias, right? We need to update the bias. We need to update the bias. What is the initial value of VDW? VDW will be initialized initially to 0. Okay. So let me just write down the algorithm also for you. Initially, VDB will be initialized to 0. Yes, beta 0.95 initialize more weight towards the previous weight itself. Yes, HGD with momentum is a separate optimizer. Too much mass, do you need to remember? No. Again, I'm telling you, with respect to interview questions, you just have to tell that. Now, by applying this moving weighted average, we are actually smoothing this curve. Okay. See, understand what we are doing. Okay. This formulas, I also did not understand when I was doing it for the first time. I'm taking it as an assumption. Okay. This whole formula is doing the moving weighted average, right? Just consider what is the smoothing, what is the need of smoothing after getting the noise. I told you one example, right? Here is my noise. If I really want to quickly move over here, I'll try to do the smoothing over here, right? I'll try to reach the top very much easily. Exponential weighting average is also having disadvantage. At start, it will be low. Is it right? At start, it will be low. What do you mean by at start, it will be low? At start, it will be low. No. What you're talking about, probably you're talking about a next optimizer. I'll talk about it. Okay. Is there any formula for bias initialization technique? Bias will be randomly initialized. See, till now, I have just told about weight updation, right? I told about weight updation here, right? Apart from weight updation, bias updation will also happen, right? Bias updation will also happen with the same formula. Like it will say that bias of new is equal to bias of old minus learning rate derivative of loss with respect to derivative of bias old. This is the formula for both W new and bias new. Okay. All this for reducing noise. Yes. All this for reducing noise. Yes. By reducing the noise, we are trying to reach the global minima a little bit more quickly, you can say. Please save the whiteboard as PDF answers with us if possible. Sure, I'll do that. Why are we giving more importance to previous weight and not current weight? Now, it says that that is also a very good question. Let me just show you this diagram. Okay. Now see, if I really want to take this path, I obviously have to be dependent on the previous weights, right? If I really want to take this path, right? Suppose this was the original path, but now from this path, I'm making that changes, right? So probably more importance is given to the previous weight. Bias optimizers happens in bias updation happens in optimizer only. No, like how weight updation happens, bias updation will also happen. Can you explain the sequence again? Okay, I'm just going to disable the chat and I'll try to show you once again. I'll just try to do this. I told you, first of all, With respect to gradient descent, we saw that the convergence was pretty much smoother. But with respect to mini batch gradient descent, you saw that there was exceptionally more noise. Now, in order to smoothen this noise, I taught you a concept of which is called as exponentially weighted average, right? So we are going to specify some weights to the previous value, and based on that, we are going to do the average. So initially, suppose I say that my V of T1, okay, this is just like a weighted average. I'm assigning to A1. Now to compute the next, if I take T1 and T2 and I want to compute the exponentially weighted average, I will multiply beta multiplied by VT1 plus 1 minus beta multiplied by A2. This beta, if I'm specifying it as 0.95, it is giving more importance to the previous value. If I'm specifying a smaller value, it is giving more importance to the new value, right? The next upcoming values. Now here in this case, I said that if beta is 0.1, then more importance is given to the next upcoming values. If I give 0.95, so like this, with respect to everything, we are computing the exponentially weighted average. Now this exponentially weighted average, instead of computing with respect to derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W world, we are going to replace this with that particular exponentially weighted average over here. And this is basically given by this particular formula, right? This is the weight updation formula. This is the bias updation formula. Instead of writing derivative of loss with respect to derivative of weights or derivative of loss with respect to derivative of bias, we are basically using this particular formula and this formula. And usually I told you that in our case, we select the beta value as 0.95. So the beta value will be over here and 1 minus beta will be over here. Okay. Does it make sense? See guys, it happens, I also just did not learn it for the first time. What will be the value of VDWT minus 1 initially? Okay, let me just write down the algorithm for you. Okay, let me just write down the algorithm. So the algorithm will look something like this. Let me write the algorithm. So here, the implementation, focus over here, guys. Instead of messaging, just focus over here. The implementation details. Okay. So the implementation details will be that initially VDW is equal to 0, VDB is equal to 0. Okay. Then on iteration T inside epoch, this is the algorithm that I'm writing, guys. Okay. We compute derivative of weights and derivative of B on the current mini batch. Okay. On the current mini batch. And then we compute VDW by the formula beta VDW. Suppose this is my beta VDW T minus 1 plus 1 minus beta, and this will basically be DW. So this DW is nothing but derivative of loss with respect to DW T minus 1. Okay. Similarly, we compute DBT beta DBT minus 1 plus 1 minus beta derivative of loss with respect to derivative of B T minus 1. Okay. Now, first of all, we compute this two. Then we update the weights by using this learning rate. And we say that, okay, this will be getting updated by VDW, and bias will basically be updated by this learning rate multiplied by VDBT. Okay. So this is the whole implementation with respect to gradient descent with momentum. Okay. So this is the whole implementation with respect to gradient descent with momentum. Initially, VDW is equal to 0, VDB is equal to 0. Then on every iteration inside an epoch, right? For every mini batch, we will be updating VDWT, which is my moving exponential average, VDBT. Then I update that particular weight with respect to this. And because of this, what we are achieving something called as smoothening of convergence. And because of this, we will be able to reach very, very quickly. Okay. Okay, I know many people will be saying, Krish, what you're teaching? I will discuss about the computational performance as we are going ahead, but just understand this is the implementation detail. Okay, you'll be saying, Krish, come on, what the hell are you teaching? This is not what we expected from you guys. What I can do? There are maths, right? In coding, you don't have to worry about all these things. In coding, you don't have to worry about all these things. You just have to use the type. That's it. If you say that my optimizer is SGD with momentum, it will automatically implement all these things. Okay. VDWT minus 1. So that only I'm saying, see this. T minus 1, suppose you are in the first stage, this T minus 1 will be in the first. Suppose this is in the first, and this basically says if T is equal to 1 in this, if T is equal to 1, right? If T is equal to 1, that time this T will be equal to 0. The previous stage, whatever VDW is there, that you are basically taking up. Okay. Okay, guys. So I'm going to disable the chat, but just understand you have to respect the researchers who had actually put up so much of time. Okay, so much of time in all these things. We should actually appreciate their efforts and probably for them to experiment this many things. Right, it may have become so much difficult, right, and it's pretty much amazing. Okay. Now, let's go ahead. We have discussed about batch gradient descent. We have discussed about SGD. We have discussed about SGD with momentum. Uh, Now, the next thing that we are actually going to discuss is about something called as let's uh, let's discuss about this. But right now, see, at the end of the day, you should know the best optimizer is Adam. We are learning all these things because we need to understand the maths. But at the end of the day, everybody uses Adam. Every damn person. Everybody uses Adam. We'll discuss about Adam also. It's pretty much good. Okay. That does not mean that we should not know this. We should know this. So I'm teaching you. Okay. But that only, they may ask you some interview questions with respect to that. Okay. The fourth type of optimizer is called as, let me write it down, adaptive, AdaGrad. This is called as adaptive gradient descent. Okay. Now, till now, whatever neural networks we have discussed, we know that the learning rate is fixed. The learning rate is fixed, right? The learning rate is fixed. Till now, whatever we had learned, we said that, okay, let's initialize the learning rate as 0.01, or it can be anything between 0 to 1, not exactly 0, not exactly 1, and it should be between that, a smaller number. So in every time we had done this, right? And now, if I just consider that gradient descent which I'm actually drawing from that much time, okay, so this is my weights, this is my loss. Okay, and suppose if I draw this, okay, what happens if my learning rate is fixed? Suppose my learning rate is fixed, so it may happen in such a way that it will be taking the same step size to reach the global minima, right? What if as the training is going on, we dynamically change learning rate. Now what does this basically mean? Suppose initially I initialize a learning rate a higher value like 0.5, and then as the training happens I try to reduce this value. Suppose after 0.5 it will become 0.45, then it will become 0.30, then it will become 0.10, then it will become 0.05, then it will become 0.04, then it will become 0.03 as the iteration will be going on. So initially what I meant is that suppose my initially weights were here, first I took a very big jump, and as my weight got updated my jump became smaller, it 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 became smaller. And finally, I reached my global minimum. Now just tell me whether this process will be faster or this process will be faster. In this process, I have kept my learning rate fixed. But in this process, my learning rate is changing as the number of iteration is increasing. Yes, obviously this will be faster. This blue color one will be faster. Initially, I took a bigger step. I know that I want to reach at that point of time. Suppose I'm going to just consider like this. This is my mountain. Okay, this is my mountain. This is the tip of the mountain. Okay, in small, when we are small, right, we should draw this. Suppose there is a competition with A and B. Okay, A and B. There is some gold. Let me just take an example. There is some gold at some spot, and they need to go to the tip of the mountain and they need to search for that spot. Okay, so initially what they will do, they will initially run like anything towards, because everybody knows that this is the area where that specific thing is there. So they will take long jump. They will try to run quickly and they may go over here. Okay, they may go over here. But after this, they may search for this particular item over here, right? They may search for this particular item over here. And here they will start taking smaller steps and they will try to search everything. Like that, that is the most advantages when we change the learning rate dynamically as the training is happening. And that is the reason why they came up with this particular concept, which is called as adaptive gradient descent. And in this, the formula is very simple. Very simple, not like SGD with momentum. Again, I'm telling you, not like SGD with momentum. So let's see, what is the formula? I know my weight updation formula, right? I know my weight updation formula. What is my weight updation formula? I'll say that, okay, W old or WT is equal to WT minus 1 minus learning rate of derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W old, right? And again, guys, because of this, they stopped using this exponentially weighting average also. Okay, they stopped using this. Again, I'll tell you. Now, what has happened over here? Now, see, this is the formula with respect to gradient descent. We know that, right? I hope we know that. We are learning from that much time. I've been tired writing this particular equation till now. Okay. Now, instead of using this learning rate, this formula will change a little bit more. Instead of writing n of t, in case of AdaGrad, I will write W of t minus 1. Instead of writing n, this learning rate, I will write n dash. And I'll say derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W old. Okay. What is this n dash? Again, I have to write this n dash as like n dash of t. Okay. Let's see. What is this n dash? N dash of t. This n dash is basically given by n. I'll not say n, or I'm just, since I'm writing it as n, so I'm just saying it as n, but this is not n. Okay. This divided by root of alpha t plus sigma. I'll discuss about each and every component. Instead of using this learning rate, I'm using this component. Now, first of all, what is this parameter? This is my initial learning rate. Okay. This alpha t can be computed as, sigma of I is equal to 1 to t, derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W whole square. Okay. Derivative of t minus 1 whole square. Okay. Now, what is this? Remember, I'll just discuss about this. Okay. What is this? Okay. But just understand that this mathematical equation that I've written, I is equal to 1 to t, this will also be t. Okay. Now see this. First of all, I change this learning rate formula to n dash, to this dash t, theta. This is called as theta. Okay, theta. This is nothing but your initial learning rate divided by alpha of t plus epsilon. Why we are adding this epsilon? This epsilon should be a small positive number. Small, not a very big positive number, small positive number. Why this should be there? Because understand, if this alpha of t is 0, then if I don't take this, then anything divided by 0 will give me a 0 division error. It will give me a 0 division error. So we are adding a small positive number, a very, very small positive number, not a very big number. And this alpha of t is basically given by summation of I is equal to 1 to t, derivative of loss with respect to derivative of wt whole square. Now, why I have taken in this particular way, why this equation is basically written in this way, we'll try to understand it. Initially, understand once over here. This initial learning rate, let me consider this initial learning rate is nothing but 0.01. Okay, my initial learning rate is 0.01. Now, let's go over here. We saw that in case of AdaGrad, initially the weights are high. Sorry, initially the jump is high, and then it is becoming smaller, right? That basically means after considering one learning rate, we should try to reduce this learning rate value as we are moving towards the convergence point. And this will happen with respect to time steps, right? So suppose that initially t is equal to 1, time step 1, I initialize it as 0.01. In t is equal to 2, I should try to reduce this and make it like this, 0.009. At t is equal to 3, it should be like 0.0085. At t is equal to 4, it should be 0.0008, sorry, 0.007, 0.007. Like that, at t is equal to 5, then again it should be 0.006. And that is what it is happening. See, what we are doing over here is that over here, you can see that summation of I is equal to 1 to t, derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w whole square. When I write alpha of t, and I'm doing summation of I is equal to 1 to t, I is equal to 1 to t. Suppose I'm at the t5 stage. I'm at the 5th iteration stage. I also have to compute the derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w whole square, and I have to do the summation. I have to find the sum of derivative of loss with respect to derivative of whole square for this also, right? For this also, and for this also. And I have to do the summation of all these values. The reason why I'm doing the summation of all these values, because we need to reduce our learning rate. And this will only get reduced when this value is higher. So suppose when I do this particular addition, this will be a bigger number. Obviously, this will be a bigger number because I'm taking the whole square, right? So, and I'm doing the summation with respect to all the previous time steps also. I'm doing the summation, right? I'm doing the summation with respect to this. So this will obviously become a big number when compared to this n, which is my initial, sorry, with respect to theta, which is my initial learning rate. When I divide by a big number, this value will get reduced. This will also reduce, right? Because this is my learning rate, initial learning rate 0.01. Now I have dividing by something. I'm dividing by something, right? Then obviously this value will reduce, right? And now this will reduce and this will get an updated value, and then this will get applied in the weight updation formula. Consider in this particular way, guys. This alpha of t is basically given by this equation, derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w of t whole square from summation is equal to I is equal to 1 to t. That basically means we are also going to consider the previous derivative values with respect to the previous timestamp. Okay, so we are trying to add up all these things. And when we add up all these things, alpha of t will definitely be a bigger number. And when I try to divide by a bigger number, then this particular value will be also decreasing. Okay, that will also be decreasing, right? Because I'm increasing this number. I'm increasing alpha of t, right? I'm increasing it. So if I divide anything by this, we are definitely sure that our learning rate will keep on decreasing. But there's still some disadvantage with respect to this. What is the disadvantage? See, after some point, this alpha of t will be a very, very huge number. Very, very huge number. Very, very huge. Like if I have a very deep neural network, right? And I'm still keep on updating this by square, and I'm doing the summation. This alpha of t will definitely be a bigger number after some point of time if it is a very deep neural network, right? And when we are divide with a very bigger number, this particular number will be a small value, right? My learning rate may become something like this. Like this, my learning rate will become something where I started as 0.01, but after updation, after some number of iteration, it become a small number. And now if I have this many small number, this much small number, the weight new and weight old will be approximately equal, right? We saw that. And for this also, we have a technique to solve it. And that is what we will be discussing in our next optimizer, which is called as RMS prop. RMS prop, right? There was still a disadvantage in this. The disadvantage is that as I keep on doing this particular operation for a very deep neural network with respect to all the previous iterations, right? I am keep on updating this alpha of t. I keep on updating this. So when this value is very bigger, obviously this value is going to decrease. And at one point of time, the value will be such a minimal value. Whenever we do the updation, the W new and W old are approximately same. So it will keep on revolving around that specific area, on this particular area, right? On this specific area, it will keep on revolving over here. And probably the convergence may also not happen. That is the disadvantages with respect to this technique, which is called as adaptive gradient descent. That basically means that here we are changing the learning rate. We are changing the learning rate as the number of epochs are increasing. So let me know, guys, whether you're following. You can message it whether you're following this or not. Is it beautiful? See, this all things, this is like many people are saying, yes, they have understood it amazing in an amazing way, I hope. But just understand, guys, how much efforts the researcher may have put in this, right? The maths is pretty much interesting. Obviously, it is very interesting. Okay, how to choose? See, guys, it will take time. Okay, does AdaGrad have momentum concepts? No, it does not have any momentum concepts. So I did not change the formula of derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W old, right? Guys, see, if you are not following, just wait for some time and just, I have already uploaded all these videos in my YouTube channel. Okay, you just have to watch it once again. Okay, how T1 comma T2 value came, sir? See, T1 T2 is nothing but as we go on doing the number of iteration. Suppose in the first iteration I will specify it as T1, in the second iteration T2, in the third iteration T3. So when I'm doing this, I'm doing the summation of 1 to t, right? So with respect to this iteration, what was my derivative of loss with respect to weights? What was my derivative of loss with respect to weights? What was the derivative loss with respect to weights? Right? We are just trying to, yes, then n will keep on decreasing. Yes. Yes, vanishing gradient problem. You're absolutely right. But with respect to learning rate, I think Krish, just asking, you're writing this maths looking onto the paper or you have by hearted? I remember it. Sometime I look at the paper whenever I'm teaching. I keep this notes handy, So that's my way of teaching. I don't remember all the concepts. When I have to teach, I have to actually have a look. Okay. Unable to understand the algorithm and equation relationship. Just try to understand, guys, over here what we are trying to do. What we are trying to do over here, we are trying to reduce this learning rate dynamically as the training is happening. So in order to do that, I have divided by alpha of t plus e. This alpha of t is basically derived by this particular equation, right? This is what the researchers have given. They explored it. I have also not proved it. They've given this. What if we apply to a smaller neural network? It will definitely work well. Krish, AdaGrad same as Adam? No, it will be different. I'll teach you. What is E? This is not E. This is just a small value, small positive number. I told you, right? If alpha of t is 0, suppose, if it is 0, what happens? Then it will become a division by 0 error, right? So we are taking this this particular value as a small positive number. Okay. Yes, learning rate will change in each iteration. In the interview, they will ask you this basic things, and probably you have to tell them that how the learning rate is basically decreasing. Can you explain the part at which alpha increases? See, alpha alpha formula, just focus everyone over here. See, alpha formula is like this, right? Summation of I is equal to 1 to t dl of derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w. Now, suppose my iteration has happened till t5, right? Suppose t4 and t5. For everything, we'll calculate the derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w for that specific time, right? We are doing the square and we are adding it, right? We are adding it. So when I add this whole value, this obviously will become a bigger value as the time iteration goes on, right? So this is nothing but my alpha t. And now when I'm dividing anything by alpha t, this will also be decreasing, right? I'm dividing it over here, right? This is the story of evaluation of best techniques. Yes. See, I'm teaching you in terms of stories, guys. Why this problem will happen. Now we understood that at one point of time the alpha t will become a very, very big value. Okay, very, very big value. And because of that, this learning rate, and I'll show you guys how the learning rate will also may probably change. Initially, the learning rate may be like this 0.001, 0.01. In the next iteration it may be 0.009, then it may be 0.0085, then it may be 0.0075, then it may be 0.0060, like this, and by that we'll be actually reaching over here. Okay, guys, so if you did not understand, I've already uploaded videos everywhere, in even my YouTube channel. Just go and watch that. You have to actually see multiple times. By that you'll be able to understand. So let me just go with respect to the next part. Still we have just half an hour. I want to complete Adam also. The next part is basically called as okay. I hope everybody understood what is the problem here. Here the problem is that the alpha t value is becoming very, very higher. Now in order to prevent it, we have another technique. Probably this is my which technique? Fifth or fourth? I think this is my fifth technique. Okay, fifth optimizer, which is my fifth optimizer, which is called as fifth optimizer is called as, let it be, where did I keep my paper? Okay, it is also called as ADA delta and RMS prop. The working is almost same, guys. Okay, for this ADA delta and RMS prop. In this, there is only one change. Here we have this n dash, right? N dash was also present over here. Now this n dash will be nothing but n divided by let me just write it down, the equation. I'm also having a look onto the equation. See, I forgot sometimes some of the equations. Okay, n divided by, theta divided by, this will be nothing but root of, here also you will be having a moving average. Okay, moving average, like how we saw in the momentum, right? In the momentum, how we saw that particular moving average. So here I will specify at dw plus epsilon. Okay, so this will be my formula for this. We will try to see what is this. So this is nothing but, we can write it as moving average. In this, moving average will be beta multiplied by SDW, this is t minus 1, plus 1 minus beta, derivative of loss with respect to derivative of weight with respect to whole square. Okay, only this is the formula that is getting changed. Okay, I'll explain, don't worry what it is. Let's see. First of all, my initial formula was like this. Instead of this, I have written alpha t. Alpha t is defined by like this, right? Here we are taking squaring of the values. Can we restrict this squaring of the values? For restricting it, this formula, I hope everybody remembers, this is nothing but exponentially average, right? This is nothing but exponentially weighted average. What we saw in momentum, right? Exponentially weighted average, right? In this case, what we are doing is that we will be using some beta value like 0.95, And every time, since we are not doing the squaring now, instead what we do is that we specify a smaller value over here, right? So suppose if I say beta of 0.5, like how SDW will be calculated, again, it will be initially initialized to 0. Okay, it will be initialized to 0. Now see over here, what is happening? Suppose I write it as 0.95 SDW t minus 1 plus 0.05 multiplied by derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W square. Now here, by seeing this, obviously this value will be smaller, right? It will never go, it will never increase like how we had increased over here as alpha t. Okay, like how alpha t was increasing without any limit. Over here, we are restricting it. We are restricting it by this beta value, 1 minus beta value. Okay, and as I said that in this case, usually the beta value selected as 0.9 or 0.95. Okay, so in this particular case, you'll be seeing that instead of just using dl by dw whole square for every iteration, now we are restricting it by multiplying with a small number. So when we introduce this exponentially weighted average over here in my learning rate, later on, what is my weight updation formula? My weight updation formula will be same, right? Wt minus 1 minus n this and this. We basically have, let me see over here. Just a second. Shit. Just a second, guys. Yeah, so this will be almost same. Derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W old. W old or T minus 1. Okay, W derivative of W of T minus 1. So this will basically be my full formula. Okay, this will basically be my full formula. This n hat is basically getting changed to somewhat like this. Okay, instead of just using alpha of t, we are changing this alpha of t with something called as exponentially weighted average. This notation is basically given in the research paper, so I have written it. Okay, research paper. So instead of this, we are using exponentially weighted average. And here in the exponentially weighted average, I have taken 1 minus beta. Okay, we are restricting this. Because of this only, this alpha t was increasing, right? See over here. Because of this only, the alpha t was increasing over here, right? Summation of I is equal to 1 to t, derivation of loss with respect to W of t whole square. Now here, we are restricting it. We are restricting, how we are restricting it? We are restricting it by multiplying with a small number. Right? We are restricting it by multiplying with a small number. So at one point of time, this will never skyrocket. You know, this SD of W will never increase by a huge number. It will always be smaller. And by that, the weight updation will happen properly. Okay. Now coming to the implementation details, I'm just going to write the algorithm for this, how the implementation details is. So let me write it down. My implementation details. Again, I have taken the algorithm directly from the research paper, guys. So on iteration T, okay, on iteration T in mini batch, okay, we are going to compute derivative of loss with respect to derivative of weights, derivative of loss with respect to derivative of bias on current mini batch. Okay, then we are basically going to compute SD of W, which is nothing but beta of SD of W plus 1 minus beta derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W whole square. Similarly, since I just showed you with respect to weights, bias also will be like that, which is nothing but beta SD of B plus 1 minus beta derivative of loss with respect to derivative of B whole square. Okay, and if I go down a little bit, okay, after this, my weight updation formula will be W T is equal to W T minus 1 minus learning rate, that is n dash, okay, n dash n dash over here multiplied by derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w t minus 1. This n dash will be replaced by this particular formula. What we had, oops. This n dash will be replaced by this particular formula. Okay. And similarly, my bias parameter will change as bt is equal to bt minus 1 minus this by derivative of loss with respect to derivative of bt minus 1. Okay. So this is my whole algorithm, how the weight updation will happen. Now I will enable the chat and you can say whether you understood at least 20 to 30% or not. Are we doing mini batch in adaptive RMS prop? Yes, we have to do. Everywhere we'll be doing mini batch, guys. 50% Krish. Guys, if you're understanding 50%, you're better than me. initially when I saw this, I left it. I said no. Right now I'm not going to study this because there are so many things. But if you're understanding 20, 30, 40%, 50%, it is very, very good. Yes. But I hope I'm teaching nicely, guys. Yes or no? Something you're understanding, or Chris, you don't know how to teach like that. It is something like that. Again, I want okay, many people are saying that they are understanding. Okay, guys, this always remember, the first time you'll not be able to understand. You have to keep on going on to this because there are a lot of maths involved. The people who are deriving this, they are PhD guys. Uh, so just try to think in that way, particular way, and just try to learn in that specific way. Okay. If you are not able to understand, check my deep learning videos. There also, I've explained it. Okay. And again, my aim is to make you understand. Don't worry about how things happen, but when you remember the story, what was the problem with respect to adaptive? What is the problem with respect to adaptive gradient boost descent? And based on that, RMS prop and added delta has come, right? So just think in that specific way, and you have to basically tell the interviewers, okay, they'll not ask you the exact equations, but kind of, it is being very important for you, like how things are working. See, I've did I not make it as a story, guys, from here to there? Just tell me one question I'm asking. Did I not make it as a story? Right, everything I've made it at a story, like why we are going to this step, why we are going to this step, why we are going to this step, right? Right, so just think in this particular way, right? Now coming to the last part, okay, coming to the last part, which is, I'm just going to disable the chat, but just see, this is a story, guys, right? Story way, like there are some problems with respect to gradient descent. We came to stochastic gradient descent, then we came to mini batch stochastic gradient descent, we came to added adagrad, you know then we came to some other things, right? Then we came to RMS prop to solve the problem of adagrad, right? uh, Now the next technique, I'm just going to disable the chat, guys, now. The next technique, there was no such problem with respect to adagrad, it was working very, very well. Okay, it was working very, very well. This RMS prop was working very, very well. But what has happened is that when this was working, right, the scientists found out a better way, even more efficient than this RMS prop. At one point of time, the RMS prop was the most efficient one. Okay. So the next one that they actually came up with was something called as the last part, which is called as Adam optimizer. Okay, this Adam optimizer probably was the best till now and still the best. Okay, this name is something called as adaptive moment estimation. This is the full form of the Adam optimizer, and it was pretty much simple. In Adam optimizer, what did they do? They just tried to combine two things. one is momentum, and second one is RMS prop. They just combined these two techniques and they came up with an amazing way of implementing an adaptive moment estimation. With the help of momentum, you are actually getting smoothing, right? With the help of RMS prop, you are actually able to change your learning rate in an efficient manner such that that alpha t value will also not go high. So both these advantages things they took and they combined and they came up with this Adam optimizer. So let's write down the algorithm with respect to Adam optimizer. Remember, we will be calculating this momentum, we'll be calculating this RMS prop also. So initially, okay, whenever I talk about momentum, I had initialized two variables like VDW, okay, VDW, VDB, okay. When I am talking about RMS prop, we have come up with HDW, HDB, right? We had created this. You see over here, we had created this, right? HDW, HDB. With respect to momentum, we had written VDW, VDB, right? And based on that only, we wrote all these details, right? So now we are trying to combine both the things. We are trying to combine both the things. So how this algorithm will work? See, this is the algorithm implementation. This is the algorithm implementation. Everybody, see over here. Algorithm implementation. Initially, all these values will be 0 before we start the iteration. Then we start on iteration t. On iteration t, what do we compute? First of all, we have to compute derivative of loss with respect to derivative of w. We have to compute derivative of loss with respect to derivative of base using the current mini batch. Guys, one more thing. One person had asked, do we require mini batch in every? Yes, mini batch is required in everything after gradient descent. Okay, so this is the most important point. For every gradient descent, we are going to for every optimizers that we are using, we are going to use a mini batch. Mini batch basically means there will be some batch size. Batch size of 1,000, it may be of 10,000, it may be of 20,000, depends on the number of data. Okay, now in the next step, this is the first step. We compute this one using the current mini batch. After computing this, we compute VDW. VDW, everybody knows the formula. Beta 1, right? Beta 1 VDW plus 1 minus beta derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W. Similarly, we compute VDB. And for this also same beta will be there. See, remember, same beta 1. VDW plus 1 minus beta derivative of loss with respect to derivative of the. So this is with respect to momentum. This is with respect to momentum, right? Now the next thing that we are going to compute is basically SD of W, which is the component of RMS prop. So here now this beta and this beta value will be different. Sorry, this beta and this beta value will be different. It will not be same. Okay, that is considered as a hyperparameter. 1 minus beta. Okay, 1 minus of beta. Then we have this one, a derivative of loss with respect to derivative of W whole square. This is the same formula I'm writing. See over here. The same formula I'm writing from here to here. That's it. I'm also seeing and writing. See, same formula I'm writing from here to here, right? And this will basically be SDB beta 2 SDB plus 1 minus beta derivative of loss with respect to derivative of bias whole square, right? So this is my formula. This is my formula, right? So I have computed, and remember, one more thing that I forgot to tell. What is this? This is the part of RMS prop, right? This is the part of RMS prop. RMS prop, right? Now we have computed these two components, but where this computation will change, this computation we have to put it in our weight updation formula. Now in the weight updation formula, how do they put it? We are just going to define it over here. And I'll just check it out till here. I have written correctly or not. Yes, it looks absolutely fine. in the weight updation formula. So in the weight updation formula, and apart from this, guys, we also bring a new component which is called as bias correction. This bias correction is pretty much required. Okay, we say this particular correction by, because we have considered some beta value, right? So we bring this particular bias correction. Again, this is just a small correction in this particular updated equation. Okay, or just right now, just forget about this bias correction. Okay, not a problem, I'll just forget about this bias correction. I don't have to worry about it right now. Now my weight updation formula will be w t is equal to wt minus 1 minus learning rate, right? We are going to definitely use a learning rate. So learning rate divided by, okay, in the bottom we will be taking sdw plus epsilon, and here in the top we will be multiplying with momentum. In order to bring this smoothing factor, and in order to bring this RMS prop advantages, we are dividing this RMS prop value over here by root of SD of W plus epsilon, and we are multiplying with VD of W. This is my exponentially smoothing factor. This is my the alpha value. You remember, right? My N of T. Okay, let me just do like this. Okay, let me just make some more changes. Okay, sorry. Okay, let me just do like this. Okay, so what I'm doing over here, I'm basically bringing this changes. Okay, now remember, what is my updation formula with respect to wt? My wt will look something like this. Here, this is my initial learning rate. Remember, this is my initial learning rate, right? This is my initial learning rate. Here, this is my initial learning rate, right? This VDW is basically my component that has come up from exponentially smoothing, right? The moving average. And this SDW is basically coming from RMS prop. Now, similarly, with respect to VD, so suppose I want to really compute with respect to my bias, right? My bias parameter of BT is equal to nothing but BT minus learning rate divided by SDB plus epsilon multiplied by multiplied by VDB. So this two formula is the updation with respect to Adam optimizer. But understand what we are doing. What main thing we are doing here? We are bringing the smoothing factor, and then we are bringing the advantages of RMS prop by combining all these things. I hope you are following it. It is pretty much simple. Now, probably I will allow you to ask any. First of all, just tell me whether you understood this or not. What is the full form of RMS prop? Root mean square propagation, something like that. Root mean square, like that, right? That was easy, right? Right, yeah, partially understood, awesome concept. Okay, see guys, if you're see, we have just not done anything. We have just combined momentum, we have combined RMS prop, and we have just updated the weight updation formula. Only that is the change, right? How learning rate is changing in RMS prop as well. See, learning rate over here is changing, right? We are updating this N dash. See over here, guys. What is N dash? N dash is always getting updated, right? N dash is always getting updated over here. N dash is basically given by this particular formula, right? Root of HD W plus epsilon, right? Epsilon is a small positive number. Bias correction, okay, yeah. Bias correction, I forgot to tell you about one thing. Now, sometimes what we do is that researchers also came up with a concept of bias correction. Bias correction basically means that they were trying to bring some correction on this equation. And they said that instead of writing like this, okay, we can write VDW correction is equal to VDW. Okay, see this VDW correction, or let me just write it over here. Okay, let me just write it over here. So after bringing bias correction, just a second, guys. just here I'm actually trying to bring a bias correction. See this. Here I will bring a bias correction. Okay, so let's bring a bias correction here. So researchers also tried out this one. Okay, in bias correction, this whole equation gets changed into something like this. VDW correction is equal to, okay, VDW minus 1 minus beta 1 with respect to time, with for a time step. Okay, and VDB correction is nothing but VDB 1 minus beta 1 time. Okay, so this was with respect to bias correction on momentum. This was the formula that they used. Probably the importance of B beta, they were trying to remove it, or they just try to find out with respect to this. And then there was also one more bias correction with respect to HDW. So HDW, so this one RMS prop bias correction was, they had written in the same way, where they have taken HDW is equal to this, I'll say it as correction HDW minus 1 minus beta 2 of T. Similarly, HDB is equal to HD, this is correction HDW, sorry, HD beta. Okay, there's so much maths equation, and sometimes we also get confused. So it is nothing but 1 minus beta 2 T. So this kind of correction was brought after you computed VDW. They did some this kind of correction, and then they replaced it over here, right? They replaced it like VDW correction, VDW correction. Here also correction. Here also correction. Okay, only that was the change with respect to bias correction that they had actually brought. Okay, and probably this is just for that beta values, I guess. So everywhere we are doing separate calculation for bias and weights. Why so? Because bias and weights needs to get updated. Okay, bias and weights needs to get updated.
I hope you like this particular video, and if you are new to this channel, please do subscribe the channel, share with all your friends, and remember guys, this video is uploaded in the same order in the complete deep learning playlist. So if you're following the playlist, this video you'll be able to find out in the last optimizer technique. Okay, so here it's a complete revision of all the optimizers in one video. Okay, so yes, I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day ahead. Thank you and all. Bye bye.